We are going to show you how to install the JEI Off-Road horizontal tire carrier. We're just going to touch on a couple of points to kind of make this a little bit easier to get on for you guys. So first things first on installing these, have your crossbar and go ahead and get your clamp taken apart. Go ahead and put the bottom threaded piece onto this crossbar and have that ready to go. Next thing you want to do is come up in this corner and pull you a number. This one in particular we have set at about 13 inch. This is on a Talon 1000R 2-seater. So each side, measure down 13 inch and run you a piece of tape right here. We use electrical tape just because it doesn't leave anything on the cage. So run you a tape evenly on both sides. And then the next part of the install, it's a lot easier if you have somebody to help you, but you can put the bar with the bottom of the clamps right up to the tape, get the cap on it, and at least get one or two bolts started to kind of hold it. And that way you know it's at least symmetrical from left to right as far as how far it is down the cage. The next thing you'll want to do after that, we usually use this center tab on the roof, right up here, since that's the best thing we can find to measure off of, and then measure to the center of the pin on both sides to make sure that you have the clamps at the same angle and everything is centered in the machine this way. That's pretty critical as far as getting it to line up correctly when you get down here to these lower mounts. So get that part started, get it good and centered, everything measured out evenly, left and right, up and down. Tighten that bar down. That's the first step. So after you've got that bar set and tightened up, the next thing you'll want to do, look in your hardware kit. You will find these 3/8 hex bolts with these spacers. These are for the strut bars that help lift the tire carrier. Whenever you install these, we typically put them on, I guess you can say upside down, where the slide is on the bottom side. That way, if it's reversed, it'll still work, but there's potential for dust and dirt to collect on here, and then when you cycle it, you're going to be running dirt in there and it could bust the seal. So we run them upside down like this. Make sure you do not tighten these down fully. If you do, they won't be able to move and you'll break these ends off. So you got to make sure they can still pivot. These are lock nuts, so once you run them down, they're not going to move. So get your shocks set up on there just like this, and then when you get over here, these are your Heim joint mounts. Just get you one of the 3/8 bolts started on one end. Find your pin and your little retainer clip. Go ahead and get those hanging on there as well. Do that on both sides, and then I'll show you the next step here in just a second. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and get the tire carrier on. Once again, it's a little bit easier if you have somebody else with you. Just less wrestling and fighting it. You can do it by yourself, but definitely easier. But just take your pins, run them in from the inside out, flip that retainer over, and that part of it is done. So the next thing you'll do now, you already put your shocks on when we had it on the table. Pull your nut off. Make sure that spacer, that white spacer, goes in between the shock and the tab. Otherwise, if you don't have that spacer in there, it'll hit the head of the shock and it can break that air off. But get this set up on both sides, run them down. Once again, don't tighten them down all the way. Just run them down and keep where there's play in the bolt. Get both sides done, then we'll move to these lower clamps. So once you have your shocks on, you got everything snug down, the next step is pull this retainer clip back out. And you'll want to set these clamps. On the 2-seater, we typically go just below the flag mount. And then obviously there's no flag mount on the left, on the driver's side, but you'll want to set it very similar in a spot. If you want to pull a measurement, get this one set, pull a measurement down, do the same thing on that side, that way you know they're even. Once you have that on there, don't snug it down all the way, leave it kind of loose. We've already got these snugged, just because we've already set everything up. But once you've got them set and loose, you'll notice the tire carrier is very hard to pull down because those little shocks are extremely strong without the tire on there. But get it pulled down and get one side set, and then you'll come over to this side. And once again, we've already got all these set and everything snugged up, but you'll want to leave these loose until you find the height that you like. And then you want to, pay attention to the top of the tire carrier. Make sure that it's sitting at the angle you want to sit it at. We typically try to go as level as possible, but in some cases you might be trying to clear a cooler, so you need to make it a little bit longer. And one thing we do to help keep any rattling down is we keep tension. We'll have one stretched a little bit longer than the other. So one is pulling and one's pushing. That way there's no up and down rattling. But after you get it to where you like it, get your retainer clips pushed back in, snug them clamps up, and essentially you're done, other than if you're gonna go with the fuel can option. Go ahead and get your pack mounts on, throw your tire on. In some cases, the tire might hit the roof. You just have to angle the tire down at the front of it and get it laid out, get everything tightened up. You should be good to go. On the Talon 2-seater, the clamp will land just below the flag mount. On the 4-seater, it's going to ride considerably lower down the cage. It's going to end up down here past the bin a little bit. So the main thing is getting your top clamp set first, and then everything else will kind of fall into place. 2-seaters, we typically set somewhere between 12 and 13 inch. The 4-seaters the top clamps from this measurement here to here can be upwards of 17 inch. So you just have to kind of check your clearance, what size tire you're running, if you have a back window, etc.